Hello, this is BLsquared, and here today I have my entry for Chis Roach's Epic LEGO Transformer Contest for 2015. Here I have Autobot ShadowBolt. As you can see, he transforms into a black and white jet with a yellow cockpit. Get some up-close details here. We got the front, the side, the back, the usual. And the bottom, fortunately, doesn't have too many robot parts. And then that's really it for the jet. If we did a size comparison. Here I have my G1 Skywarp, which doesn't really fit into the frame all that well. But as you can see, ShadowBolt is quite a bit smaller than Skywarp. And if we bring in my Pyro GX, let me fix that. There we go. It is again much smaller, which is kind of the point. Let's see. Yeah. And then bring out the prototype minifigures. Blue, you guys need to not fall over on me, please. Thank you. And then the normal sized minifigures, or rather, well, the normal, more common ones. And that's really it for the jet mode. So for transformation from his jet mode, which isn't any particular jet or plane, it just kind of is. You start by taking off the guns. As per the norm with Transformers, the first step is usually take off the weapons. And if you take off the weapons, it does look a little different. I mean, not much, but it does. You could, I guess you could pretend the hooks were like machine guns or something, which for the front makes it look like a World War II fighter plane without the propeller. So, moving on into transformation, flip the wings, or fold the wings to be perpendicular with the fuselage, and then rotate them to be parallel with it. And then rotate them another 45-ish degrees. And then go ahead and flip down the arms. And there are the arms. Now, you could also stud rotate the hooks, connector pieces here, if you wanted them to sit a little straighter on him. Which, it's completely optional. I'm doing it here because it looks nice, but some people consider that cheating, so I'm just letting you know. You don't have to. Then next we have the legs, which really is just folding these wings upwards, rotating the entire back assembly 180 degrees. And then there you have the legs. And just like the stud rotating here, you can also, or I'm going to shimmy these apart a little bit. Slide, there you go, to split the legs. Again, it's not necessary, but it's cool. It helps a little bit. And then the final touch is just to fold back the nose cone to reveal the simple head. But it works. This guy is pretty small, so there's not much I could have been able to do. And there you have ShadowBolt in his robot mode. And of course, you gotta give him his guns. Now here he is, give it 360 to the robot mode. The robot mode seems similar to that of I guess, a combination of Power Glide and a Seeker Jet, which wasn't the original intention, really. I just kind of noticed that after building him, that the resemblance is kind of a little uncanny there, especially when it comes down to the transformation. Now, for a little information about ShadowBolt, he is, of course, an Autobot, and, well, he's an Autobot scout, as are most of the aerial Autobots. He's light and agile. He's not too good on the defense scene, though, because, of course, he's a scout, so he's more for flying in and looking to see what all his Decepticons are and reporting back. He can take out some, smaller threats, or at least stun them enough for him to get away, using his handheld rail cannons, or rail guns, which, of course, as a rail gun would, shoot metal projectiles at supersonic speeds. So, I guess it could do a lot of damage against some targets because of the high penetration, but still not very practical, because I'd say not practical. Well, let's just say he can't just take out hordes of enemies with these things. Especially since, him being a scout, he kind of doesn't want to be seen. And as soon as one fires, you're going to hear the sonic boom of the bullet breaking sound. So, yeah. And of course his guns, they do have names. The gray one here is Duty, and then the black one is Sacrifice. They are, Sacrifice was his gun. Okay, if we're going to put a little story behind them. Sacrifice was his gun, and then he had a brother whose name escapes me, actually. And this is actually the gun of his fallen comrade, Sacrifice. And he goes around, and these things, remind him that he's fighting the Decepticons. For various reasons, not just because they're enemies, but also because they took away a very dear friend to him. And it's not that he can't really forgive them, but, well, in reality he can't. I mean, they're Decepticons, So since then he's been fighting for the Autobot cause, after seeing the real militaristic ways of the Decepticons. So yeah, that's kind of some backstory for him. He is kind of one of the more serious types. I mean, he has to be, being a stealthy scout. But yeah. Now, one thing I actually forgot to mention is kind of what gives him his name. Okay. So, take off this gun here. His name is ShadowBolt. So, we got the shadow part in. He's like a stealthy, scout. But the bolt actually comes from his special ability to, well, he can electrify his hands, which allows him to shock, really, whatever they're touching. Or, electrify them with electricity, which would include his rail guns, so that he can actually electrically charge the projectiles that he fires out of them, so that he can actually stun enemies with them, and not just penetrate them, to cripple them. Which is nice. I guess he could also, in close combat, touch them and shot them to death with his lightning-esque powers. Just thought I'd throw that in there. I almost forgot to mention that. So, yeah. There you go. I guess that's it for his backstory. Now, I guess we should go ahead and move on to articulation. Go ahead and remove the guns. Makes it a little easier to see. Now, let's start with the arms. The arms, of course, rotate. About 180. If you move this around, you can get even more than that. We're closer to 270. You can get closer to 270 if you include the rotation of the little piece up there. Then, of course, you can rotate the wings. I like to leave them here. and then you can move him inwards and outwards because of transformation. But if you want to have him like holding something, you know, like say holding one of his guns. Oop. Make it look like he's holding one of his guns with only with both of his hands. You know, you can do that. Go ahead and put those back. The head, of course, because due to transformation, can tilt up and down. And then the legs can rotate about 150 degrees forwards and backwards. And then the waist does rotate 360 degrees. And there you go, that's articulation. Not much, but you can use it. I mean, it works. You can get in some nice, or some decent poses. I mean, most of them are going to turn out to be like running and shooting poses, like so. If I can get them to balance. Like so. Ah! Well, that's not good. Yeah, I guess you gotta be a little careful. I mean, yeah. So there you go. You know, it's nice. Well, there he goes again. Yeah, he's the feet aren't all too supportive. There you go. Oh, well, the guns. Ben, you can't do that. Here you go. Get him in some nice running and shooting poses. That's about all you can get him in, really, though. Unless you want to have him, I guess you could have him like looking up, you know, looking up at the sky up there. You know, pointing at something. And he falls over again. He can't sit properly due to the fins on his legs. You know, but minor thing. It's not like, who's gonna have their Transformer sitting? Right? And everybody's there. No. So, yeah, there you go. So I guess we should move on to the size comparisons next. We have, of course, we have to start off, like before, the prototype minifigures. And then we follow it up with the normal sized, or the more normal, typical minifigures. The normal minifigures come about up to the center of his torso, so if you discount the wings, he's just under 2 minifigures tall. Including the wings, he's about 2.5. Then we have Zero, who does not fit into frame because he is ginormous. There you go. There is Zero. Who, of course, has much better articulation than this guy. Get him into a quick pose here. Just show off. Oh, come on, Zero. Hold a pose for the people. Yeah, much more poseable. Then next we have Skywarp, which I'm just going to transform him real quick. I say real quick. The just about done. I believe his guns are null rays. If somebody knows otherwise, feel free to correct me. So there we have him with Skywarp, who again does not fit into frame. There he is. as you can see. ShadowBolt about comes to his waist, so it's roughly twice the size of ShadowBolt. That's if you include the wings on him. And then, again, go ahead and bring this back. The Pyro GX here. None of this stuff fits into frame. And this is all pretty much just to emphasize, hey, this is how small the guy is. Now, speaking of the size, you're probably wondering, you know, why'd you make such a small transformer? And the reason behind that really is because, well, when it comes down to pieces, yeah, it's going to be that. When it comes down to it, I don't really have very many of the newer ball joints and stuff. I mean, the mixel joints, no. I don't think I've ever even touched those. I don't even have any of the Exoforce joints. The only ball joints I have, aside from Bionicle, and even those I have limited supply, would be the old ratchet joints, you know, like the ones in the old Knight sets. Thumbs up if you know what that even is. So I thought, well, let's do something a little smaller, because I have a lot of hinges and I had a couple T-pieces, or 3. So just went with something smaller, because, you know, the original plan was to make something along the lines of a Seeker, and that didn't work out at all, because I wanted to make something that could have decent articulation at the same time having a nice, you know, complicated, I guess, transformation. I'm not saying I don't like Skywarp, it's just that Skywarp, his robot mode isn't very impressive compared to like this. If I could make this on a larger scale, that would be really cool, actually. Of course, I'd have more opportunities to hide things, and I'd have to add in more details, such as a better face. But, yeah. So, you know, yeah, I ended up doing this. Woo. And I'd say it works out pretty. I'd say it worked out pretty well. You know. Yeah. Now the design for the robot and vehicle mode were actually based off of one of my first Lego Transformer designs from back, you know, years and years and years ago. I mean, again, anybody remember LDD back whenever that was a big thing? You know, back whenever you could send it, you know, submit it to the website, and then you'd actually be able to order the pieces in its own box and everything, as though it was your own Lego set. Back when you could do that. You might still be able to do... No, you can't. That's right. They were Kusu or Ideas is the replacement for that, I think. But years and years ago when you could do that. That was one of the first Transformers I did, so you could probably actually find it on the old Lego website there. If it's still there, the LDD portion, under the name Colonel. Yeah, Colonel, searching Colonel will probably pull up a lot of things. But that's aside from the point. So yeah, I mean, this guy's head, for example, is directly from that. The only difference between this head and Colonel's head, other than, of course, this uses a different hinge piece, but the physical head itself is the exact same, except for it's one stud thinner to accommodate for this size. So yeah, he's kind of like an homage of, like, I guess, where I started, you know, making jet transformers. And I guess they are easier to build, and there are a lot more things you can get away with a jet transformer that you can't with, say, a car, without turning it into a shell former. You know, and that's the last thing I want to do. You know. So, I mean, then with Legos, it's really hard to make shell formers in the first place. You just don't. Yeah. So, I mean, that's pretty much it for this guy. So this has been BLsquared with Autobot ShadowBolt. Thank you for watching.